In this section, we'll talk about the star point. It's this point right here. It's also referred to as hoshi in Japanese, and hoshi means, not surprisingly, a star. Out of all the points on the Go board, this is the one that has been probably transformed the most when AI came along. Star point has been played for a while now. It was played in ancient China, and primarily there were a lot of experiments with this move in the 20th century and also in the 21st century. In fact, most of the 20th century famous openings all used the star point. For example, the Sun Rensei, where Black played the star point twice and then added another one 3 times in a row. Or the Chinese opening, where Black plays star point 3-4 and like this. Or the High Chinese, like this. Or the Kobayashi opening, where again, White plays 2 star points, star point from Black, and Black approaches. But it wasn't just us. As it turns out, the AI really likes playing the star point as well. And consequently, a lot of the star point Josekis have been improved upon. But I find that in most cases, surprisingly, the old-fashioned Josekis look a little more reasonable and more human. So it would make more sense to learn them first, understand the reasoning behind those moves and ideas, and then once that is out of the way, we can move on to the more modern computer variations. The star point is one step farther away from the corner compared to Sun, and so it leaves the corner completely open. The star point is not really interested in keeping that corner territory, and it's all about traveling to those faraway lands and becoming a wealthy feudal lord in the process. So when your opponent invades into Sun, and he definitely will, then you should be prepared to bid farewell to this part of your land right away. This territory is not under your control anymore. And how is Black going to receive compensation for this loss? Let's investigate. After a Sun invasion, we get the exact same position we saw in the previous lesson, with one minor difference. The order of moves is reversed. Now it's no longer the Sun that got here first and is attacking the covering stone, but it's the star point that was played first and is attacking the invader. And the principle is still exactly the same. Just because White made a move that's so close to your stone, you have to take control of the situation and make a contact move in response. So you can't play anything loose. For example, playing something like this or playing something like that is simply out of the question because it will leave White with the simple options of responding to this. You play this, White simply pushes out, and this stone is weak. Something like that is also out of the question. This leaves an obvious weakness here. White can push out, and this weakness is still there. So the only question you should be asking yourself after this invasion is, which side do I block? Do I block from here or from here? We'll talk about the side preference later. For now, let's just imagine that Black blocks like this. And White now also has to extend to maximize the space, the territory inside the corner. And let me show you the old-fashioned human Joseki first that we had played for so many years before the computers came. Black tries to keep the invader as low as possible here. So Black would hane to force White onto the second line. White has to live here. Otherwise, if White doesn't add any moves, Black will play here and the stones will die. So White plays hane. Black extends. Another crawling move. White is not happy doing this, but White needs to live. Black extends once again, keeping his stones strong and not creating any extra cutting points. For example, playing like this to block White right away is a mistake, because even though it does block White, and White will still live in the corner right now, but this weakness is a burden that you don't want to have. So without creating any extra cutting points, Black would simply extend. And now White feels that this is still too small. So White would add another move on the second line, this hane. Black responds. White connects. And there's a weakness now. Black would finish the Joseki by making this beautiful tiger's mouth. And White steals the corner territory in Sente. Isn't this just a perfect scenario for White? White now still has the move, the initiative to play somewhere else. And yet, however perfect it may seem for White, when I was only starting to play Go, the advice that I would receive from stronger players would be that I should not invade into Sansan too early. And why? Why shouldn't I do that? I asked them. This seems so great. I get the corner in Sente. And this is how they explained it to me. Suppose black has another star point, and white makes another Sansan invasion, and then the same variation is played. So yes, white got some territory, maybe about 16 points altogether, and white did it all in Sente. But black has these two walls, so much thickness and power. Do you really think that black won't be able to make 16 points with these walls? Probably a lot more than that. And also, any fight in this area will now favor black, and it's going to be very difficult for white. But after all, this is still a human understanding of this Joseki, a human vision. AI had a very different idea about it. And let me tell you a story how it all began. It happened in 2016, after DeepMind's AlphaGo had already defeated Lee Sedol in a match. Later that year, AlphaGo was secretly registered on an online server, and it was supposed to play a match against the strongest human professionals. 60 games of that match were played on December 31st, 2016. All of the spectators watching this match at that time didn't know what was happening. They didn't know who was hiding behind this mysterious username, Master. And the game that I'm about to show you is one of those 60. And it's the first time that AlphaGo played the modern version of the Sansan invasion. In this game, black is AlphaGo, playing under the username of Master, and white is the Korean 9-dan professional Kim Jong-hyun. In the bottom left, this is our Sansan invasion right here. AlphaGo invaded, and instead of playing this Hane and strengthening white, black tenuki'd and played another Joseki in the upper left. Now, another exchange here. Now black crawls once again on the second line, and this move is not in the original Joseki. White responds. Another probing move from AlphaGo. White responds to that as well. And without adding any further moves in this corner, black makes an extension on the left. Now white has Sente, and it would only seem reasonable to make an extension at the bottom. But before I show you what was played in the game, how far would you extend here? In the game, the human professional was probably under the illusion that this wall is actually played like this, like in the old Joseki variation. And here, white is so strong that white could play any sort of extension on this side. But actually, without this exchange, this white wall is much weaker. In the game, white played here, and this move is really criticized by AI. Now AlphaGo invades right away, separating these stones. White will now have to live separately. So white makes a base here. Black peeps, forcing white to connect. And jumps. Just a minute ago, these stones looked like a strong wall, and now they look like a group that could get under attack. White is still a 9-dan professional, so obviously white is not going to die anywhere. But while white is saving both of his groups, black will gain the initiative and black will attack and gain territory elsewhere. This was in fact the deciding moment that allowed AlphaGo to win this game. So in the post-game review, AI tells us that we should treat this wall not as a powerful thickness, but more like a group without a base. And so instead of an aggressive extension very far away, we should consider making something much more moderate. For example, playing something like this, or even like this. And if white is brave enough, another option could be going all the way, jumping all the way to the black corner, preparing to, if black invades, to live with this wall, and also invade the corner later. Let's take a look at it one more time. This is where the Joseki branches off. At this point before, we would Hane on the second line and make black thicker and stronger. But now the computer says, no, let's not do this, but let's crawl here one more time to make this corner stronger anyway. Because if we don't do anything at all, it would not be desirable to tenuki right now. If white plays somewhere else, then this move, for example, for black, would become Sente. It blocks the corner, very pleasant for black, and at the same time, if white doesn't respond to this move, now this is going to kill the corner. So to avoid this unpleasant Sente, white adds another move here. And after this, now it's possible to tenuki. This is our basic modern variation, and before we get to see some more, I want to talk about the concepts that are very important on any stage of the game of Go. I'm talking about Sente and Gote. When you play a Joseki variation, actually before you even start playing a Joseki variation, you should ask yourself one simple question. Whose turn is it going to be after you finish? If you will have the turn, if it's going to be your move after the Joseki, then you will have Sente. If not, then you will get Gote. And sometimes it makes sense to get a slightly worse result, but then keep the Sente to maintain the initiative. It's like when you're playing snowballs with your friends, and you have a few snowballs saved here, and they have some saved there as well, and then there's going to be a skirmish between you, and at some point, one of you is going to run out of snowballs, and whoever has snowballs left is going to get Sente. You definitely want to have that advantage in the game of snowballs, and by the same token, you also want to get this advantage in the game of Go when you're choosing a Joseki. And now when we look at some of the other variations that are available after the Sun Sign invasion, it's like going to a supermarket. You will look at the shelves and see what's available there, and, well, a lot of things are available. The only difference is how much you're going to have to pay for that. So let's see what kind of options are available in this Joseki for black and for white in terms of Sente and Gote. For example, in this variation, white gets Sente, black gets a wall. But what if black still wants to get a wall, but he also wants to keep Sente? Can we do that? Actually, yes. At the very beginning, before it all begins, we don't hane, we don't pressure white so much, but we can simply extend like this. This is also a modern variation. This makes a wall, and now white still needs to respond, and the typical response for white would be to play our good old familiar knight's move, the sliding knight's move to the second line. Again, the same reason as before. It's very strong, it can be cut, so don't even try. Something like this is useless. White simply responds, so don't even play this. This is the end. White goes outside, but at the same time now black doesn't have to respond here at all. Black has Sente, so black can make an extension. For example, play something like this. Or, if black wants to, this is not even necessary. Black can just tenuki and play anywhere else, leaving this wall like this. And white can also be satisfied with this, even though this is a low move. But after black takes his Sente, for example, makes an extension, white is not locked in the corner anymore. So white can also add another stone here, get out of the corner, and make some territory. Now, what if white says, wait a minute, I don't want to play like this to the second line, this is a bad move, I want to play higher, I want to get more territory right away, and white plays here. What is black going to do now? This move is definitely possible, but it comes at a price. Like this, white has no weaknesses. But after this, there are definitely some. So if black, for example, has the ladder, black can cut right away, and when white blocks, now this move becomes possible, cutting either one of the weaknesses, and after white captures, black can cut and capture the stone in the ladder. But let me show you a simple variation that you can do where if white wants to get more territory, black ends up making a stronger wall. So let's suppose you don't want to read any of those ladders. You can just push here once. White needs to respond. Now, push here. White blocks. Now, very important, we never push without cutting. Once we pushed here, we have to cut. We cut here, and we force white to connect. Because if white takes the stone, black will take the corner back. White has to capture, and black gets the corner. So white invades the corner and then loses it. What's the point? And this shape, white doesn't need the stone here at all. So this is not satisfactory for white. So white is going to have to connect here. And the next move is a Tsuji, and I suggest you try and find it yourself. White's corner is almost alive. Did you think we were going to save this stone? No. Saving it like this makes no sense. If we keep crawling, white will extend, and white is happy. How many times are you going to have to extend here to live? Too many. So, we're not going to do this. The Tsuji here is to make a nose attachment like this. And this move is asking white a question. How is white going to respond to this? White can play here, and this is what white really wants to play. But at the same time now, black is going to save the stone, and white is separated. White probably doesn't want this to happen. So, in the real game, white is forced to take the stone, and we connect happily. And now, just like I promised you, black gets a much stronger wall than before. And what's more important, white probably can't even tenuki here, because if white plays anywhere else, then this move becomes Sente, and black will play here right away with the very next move, and white needs to respond and capture these stones. And after this, black will protect the cutting point, like this. Well, this is a simple connection, but this is a much better shape, and a very good shape to remember. And black is too powerful. Black's influence is just overwhelming. So unwillingly, white probably still has to crawl here one more time just to not allow black to play this move in Sente. And now black has Sente. Black has a great wall, and now black can tenuki and play anywhere he wants. But wait, what if after white makes a Sun-Sun invasion, black still wants to keep the corner? Black doesn't want to lose it. Is it possible? And lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, this item is also available. Black blocks, just like before. Now, Hane. And after this move, black plays a double Hane, another one. And this puts a lot more pressure on the white stones. This basically forces white to capture the stone. Atari. And at this point, white doesn't want to connect like this, because if white connects, if black has the ladder, black will capture. If not, black can extend. And the corner is so small, white still needs to add more moves here to live. This is not something white wants to do. So white probably captures the stone, and then you're happy. You Atari back, you allow white to take the stone, and then here it is. Atari, and you capture the corner. The corner is yours again. But certainly it comes at a price. First of all, black loses Sente here. Now white has Sente. And what's more, white here has a very powerful shape. This shape is known as Ponuki, or the shape of capturing one stone. Very strong. There's a proverb in Go that says that a Ponuki shape is worth 30 points. If you believe it or not, I don't know, but white is really happy here as well. So this is still a Joseki. And by the way, these two white stones are indeed captured. And if white tries to escape, let's say white extends, black is going to... Actually, what would you do here as black? White seems to be hoping for a miracle here. But actually, this is a very common move after the Joseki. When white plays here, black cannot block from this side. In this case, white will just capture the two stones, and white gets the corner back. So the only move for black here is to respond from the corner, and now white only has two liberties left. White cannot escape. But what white can do in the future, white can get, for example, this move for free. This is Sente against the stones. Now, this move threatens to save them and then kill the corner. So black would be forced to respond here, playing something like this, or maybe like this. I hope it's not too confusing yet, because this last variation that I'm about to show you is one of the reasons why Star Point has been played less and less by amateurs and professionals alike. The first reason being that AI tends to think that Sun-Sun invasion favors the invader slightly. So if you play the Star Point and your opponent invades, the result is typically going to be good for him. And the second reason is this. When we play like this, and next, black can play this scary jump. And I'm not showing you this to ask you to play this in your games, God forbid. I'm showing you this to teach you how you can avoid complications here, because this can lead to tons and tons of unpredictable and complex variations. So if your opponent plays this against you, to simplify things, you can just trust me and don't get scared. You can attach like this. I know it looks crazy and it's very dangerous for white, but actually there's nothing bad that can happen here. If black tries to capture the stone, you can simply cut. And if black now takes it, you can escape. White is out of the corner. This is good for white. So if black extends here, fine. We can make this exchange and then just crawl. And we're back, almost back to the original variation. This is simple. So the only question is, what happens if black plays this Hane? Now, we simply pull back. Now black needs to somehow defend this weakness. Black can simply connect, but AI suggests that black should play here. Now, before defending the shape, there's a weakness here, so we cut first. Black has to separate. And now we have to live. The same Hane on the second line. Black blocks. We defend, and black needs to make shape here. The same tiger's mouth. You might think that this looks very similar to the old human Joseki variation that I showed you at the very beginning, but it is different. Here, let me show you. This is the old one, and this is the new one. Once again, the old Joseki, and this is the new one. White is blocked on the right side here, but it doesn't matter because white is already alive in the corner. At the same time here, white has a cutting stone. And this cutting stone is really important because white can now tenuki and not do anything with this at the moment, or white can choose to save this stone right away, split black into two groups, and start attacking them separately. In either case, in this Joseki variation, white gets the corner, white gets Sente, and black still has a weakness on the outside, which white can use at any point later in the game. Oh, Gina, right! I forgot to talk about directions here. Let me explain. So you play a start point, and then your opponent invades. Now, which side do you block from? Does it even matter? And typically the answer is, you pick the side that looks more interesting, the side that's more promising. Well, on an empty board like this, it doesn't really matter. But let's imagine that black has some stones here at the bottom, and white has some stones on the upper side. Now, the right side looks less interesting for black than the bottom because black has some stones over here. So, for example, if black plays here, now white will steal black's bottom. White is crawling exactly into black's territory. So in this case, because this side is more interesting, we probably want to block from this side. Now we're making a wall that's going to face this influence, this territory. And white will take the territory on the right. By the way, you can also watch these lessons on our platform, gomagic.org. Except there, you'll watch them with interactive quizzes right within the lessons and practical exercises right after them. And if you enjoy watching these Go videos and you don't want to miss others like this one, go smash that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and this is Go Magic.